Hey everyone, it's Stephanie Garcia, and this is the Art of Becoming series, where we talk all about the journey between where you are right now and where you want to be, and all the stuff that has to happen in between to get you there. If you're ready, let's get started. Hey everyone, how are you all doing? So, have you ever felt like you're just not creative, or you just have lost your creativity, or you think, you know what, I haven't had time for my creativity? Then this is the episode for you. I was at an event and I met this person that I felt just embodies everything that he was talking about and just exudes this beautiful energy. And I just felt like, you know what, when I met him, I wanted him on the podcast. He's an actor. He's been in film. He's been in White Noise that you can see on Netflix. He's also been in theater, musical theater. And I just felt like this conversation was so important for us to have, especially at this time in life and in the world at this moment. So without further ado, welcome Tony Reimonenq III. How are you doing?
Hi guys, I'm doing good. So
Thanks
happy to
so
be
much for
here.
coming in. Yeah, thanks for coming in here.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so this is a conversation you and I talked a little bit before we got on the recording here, just how much we're excited to have this conversation. We were
Mhm.
excited to have this conversation last a week or so ago when
Right.
we were talking. At the time of recording, it's a week later from when we just met.
Mhm.
And it's all about creativity and just how many times we sometimes can think that we're just not creative enough, and how much that can be a lie that we try to tell each other.
Right.
Yeah. So tell people a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and
Mhm.
then we'll dive into the topic.
Well, in short, I am a creator. I create art through theater, so I sing, I dance, I act. I create artistic experiences with my nonprofit, Tonytopia. We do events that get the community together, that give local artists, whether you're a singer, musician, spoken word, whatever you do, whatever your medium is, we give you the opportunity to create and showcase. So I think in essence of what I am and who I am a creator that just tries to give good energy and good love and good vibes to the people.
Well, I think that's really important because we have to realize that as people, we are always creative. And
Mhm.
then, like, I think sometimes we get caught up in the label of what we think creativity is. You're like, I'm an actor, I'm a whatever, and we kind of like demean ourselves a little bit or kind of
Right.
shrink down the labels sometimes. And
Mhm.
I think we have to remember that just creativity is the essence of who we are. It's what comes through. The channels or what the labels we call are just simply the channels. You can be a cook, you
Right.
can be a painter. It's not always something creative in that way. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation today, so that we can open ourselves up. Because when I first met you, one of the best things you ever said that day was like, we're always creative. We're always creating.
Yes. That is so, and that's why I am such a respecter of anybody's career. If you are a mailman, I love you. If you are a doctor, I love you because like you are doing, you are fulfilling the need that needs to be fulfilled. The mail is getting deposited. You're creating that need. Doctors, you're saving lives. You're creating a need of health, all this health stuff. So I think it's all about our perspective because we're all creative. Whether your career was in accounting, that's your way that you create. And even if you have passions outside of accounting, that's when I get excited because I'm like, okay, well, ooh, how can we still have you create as an accountant, but still have you get some nurturing to these, gifts that you have outside of your label or the medium that you are creating in. But we're always creating, always
Yeah.
creating.
Yeah, and we're always putting, it's really just the energy that we're putting out into the world, our essence of who we are, and it doesn't matter what we're putting it into.
Hmm.
And so, where did it all get started for you when it came to creativity? Did you always want to be an actor? Did you always want to be on stage? Did you like talk a little bit about little Tony?
Little Tony. Right. I think I always known since I was a kid that I was meant to be like shared and like I felt like a star that the rays were meant to like be spread to other people. So I think that just kind of like fell into me performing because my gifts of singing and dancing and all and acting kind of fit into the gift of performance. But I've learned as I've gotten older and done acting more that in addition to acting and the label that places on me, I found that to be kind of limiting in terms of like, and I'm doing a lot already, singing, dancing, and acting, but still I felt like it wasn't enough for who I am. So then I started to learn and realize that this thing that I do is not who I am. The things that I am, how can I make space for that as well? Knowing how I'm a lover of people, how I love to laugh, I love to be social, I love to give people good experiences and memories that they can hold on to. How can I make space for those things? And then that's when Tonytopia accidentally came into play because I just wanted to create the things that I wanted to feel and share and realizing, oh, I can put a label on that as well. So now I'm in this space of all of the mediums I have, all the labels that I have. Thankfully, they're feeding all of the gifts and the passions that I like feel. So,
Yeah, I think what the beautiful thing about what you just said there is that you're not limiting yourself to a certain
mhm.
label. And I think what's also very important is that sometimes we can get lost in an identity of a thing that we do. And then something happens to that thing that we do. Let's say it's a part of our career, because I mean, life changes. I've had
Uh,
many changes in my life and in my career. And if you get too tied to the channel as your identity,
mhm.
and something happens economy wise or economic, something might happen, or just, you maybe lose interest in something, or something happens in to that channel that
Mhm.
you're expressing yourself through, there can be a collapse of identity and maybe a loss of identity because you know, who am I if I'm not this? But if you
Right.
can kind of bring it back to center and say, actually, that's just one expression. I have
Mhm.
multitudes of expressions
Mhm.
because it's all me. The thread
Right.
between all of it is me. And
Mhm.
so I think it's really important what you were just saying. It's like you didn't get caught up in just one form. And I
Right.
think that's also like kind of helps you, for me, that that I feel from you is you're not limiting. There's like your energy is bubbling and it's all over this place and you can go into anything. And I love that.
And I'm grateful that I'm not limited because I feel like I've had so many experiences throughout my life where people have tried to get me to see that you need to limit yourself. You are too much. You're too bubbly. You're too this. And I'm like, I just feel like that would be me changing who I am. And like, I just never wanted to do that. And it's uncomfortable at times because, feeling like you are too much for certain spaces, but reminding yourself that you aren't too much. And this is just the first time this type of energy has been in this space. Again, shifting that perspective about it because it's also the perspective about your job being who you are. I am grateful for the pandemic because it gave me the chance to think about, oh, what if I can become an actor? Because I was in my final semester of college. I had all these opportunities lined up. Boom, boom, boom. Finally, getting out of Mississippi to do the thing, it all fell out from under me. And I was like, oh. And it was a moment where I was questioning like my identity, my worth, my value, because for years I had been like training in this thing. And I'm like, well, this thing is gone. So like, what are you going to do? How are you going to live? Who are you going to be? And thankfully, opportunities came up, and I still was able to do acting and fast forward to now. But I'm grateful for that period of the pandemic because it allowed me to like look within, which I feel like I hadn't done at that level at that point. So I think going into my professional career, I was able to kind of have the thought that like this is not like who I am completely. And I do have life and experiences outside of this label, career, medium, whatever where we want to give it.
Well, that's really great too because it gave you some distance to be like, I am not this. And so you don't get lost in it. Some
Hmm.
people, we can get lost in the thing, especially when the thing that we're doing, the channel that we're in, for your case, acting or whatever, if it could get really big and a lot of things can come from it, the mind, the ego can get caught up and say, this is
That's
who
true
I
too.
am.
Right,
And then you get lost in it. And now there's that separation between who you authentically are and something else wants to take up
right.
space all of a sudden. So that's a blessing. I think the pandemic made many of us, all of us, if not,
Right.
sit down and just stop and
Yes.
just get clear and
Yeah.
what we're really wanting to do. I know it did
Mm-hmm.
it for me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I did want to talk a little bit about, you mentioned a really important point about being too much.
Mm-hmm.
That is where I've definitely had that experience where you feel like you're too much for the room
Uh-huh.
and you pull back. I've known many people who have done that because it is that fear of, we're kind of socially conditioned to fit into a box, pull back, don't be too loud, especially if you're a woman. But in different spaces, we're just, or if you've ever had that when you were a kid, and maybe you were a loud, boisterous kid, and
Right.
then you were like, you were taught to constantly be quiet in your
Mm-hmm.
space. So
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about, I loved when you said that this is the first time this energy has been in this space. Let's
Right.
talk a little bit more about that because that can unlock something, I think, for people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's okay to be the first, to have that energy in that space for the first time. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yes, thank you for even picking up on that because I think that's where I am currently in this phase of life. That is like, it's okay to be, and it's okay because I grew up in an environment that was very controlled, and I had a great upbringing, but my dad was a pastor, so I like grew up in the church. So like a bunch of labels were all ready pressed on me as a child. You know, you have to be this because you're the pastor's kid, have to be this, have to be this. So growing up, navigating those feelings of have to be, but not wanting to be, I think got me to the point once I became an adult and I moved away that I've learned because of having to be a skill, and I'm thinking about my word choice here. A skill that I have now is being able to like mold and to adapt according to my environment, which I learned comes into play well when I'm feeling like I'm too much or I'm doing too much. And it's not me making the choice to pull back. I think because I just have learned that I learned how to protect myself in a way. Maybe just get a gauge of the room first and see where I am and see, because I do have so many things I can pull out of my tool bag, what works best for the room. You know, if I need to be the talker, I can be the talker. If I need to be the leader, I can be the leader. I can be the follower, whatever. So I think now, because of all those experiences in life where I didn't know what to do, I've gotten to the point where I can say, okay, well, because I am who I am, which is different from my neighbor and the people around me, I'm not going to change who I am because we're all created to be who we are. I'm letting you be you, so I'm going to be me. I'm just going to see how I can be the best me in this room. I don't have to be the star and the center of attention. Now, I very much can be, but I love being in the background and being, so I prefer somebody else to talk. You can speak, and I'll be here to crack a joke every now and then, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's my shape.
Yeah, well, and also this learning to be okay with being you in a room. Because sometimes when we are bigger than the energy in the room, we have to
Hmm.
remember that we're coming into the room. And actually, honestly, let's pull back a little bit. You're coming into the world when you're born, you're coming into the
Right.
world that already exists the way that it
Pre-existing.
does. You
Right.
didn't do anything wrong by entering it. So again, that
Mm.
room existed before you were
Before I
there.
walked
The
in here.
dynamics and everything were there
Hmm.
beforehand. And so we
Hmm.
have to remember that our energy coming in is going to rock the boat a little bit. It is going to
Always.
create that ripple effect. And
Hmm.
nothing has gone wrong, but it doesn't always feel comfortable. And
Right.
so standing to be in that energy and saying, you don't have to pull back. And it doesn't mean you don't belong. The fact that you've
Hmm.
been brought into that room says you belong because you're into the room.
Here.
You coming into the world and into your families, even though they're different,
Hmm.
doesn't mean you don't belong. It means you belong because you exist, you have, because you're
Right.
here, but the world may need to adjust around you. And just like
Hmm.
a thermostat, it takes time for the room to adjust.
That's
And so
good.
that is not easy to be in that because sometimes, like, the room could be too cold, too hot. And as you adjust the thermostat, that process of adjusting doesn't always feel comfortable. And sometimes you have to know the difference between letting the room adjust to you and
Mm-hmm.
whether or not you just leave the room because it just doesn't adjust at all.
Right. Which you need to. If you feel like you need to leave the room, leave the room. I'm also learning that like don't stay in spaces that don't serve you. And if you don't feel like you're growing or it's conducive to who you are, get out of there
Yeah.
because you aren't serving your long-term growth.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, we're going to go back to little Tony.
Yes, little Tony.
You lived in that space where you said we were living in a space between who you're supposed to be, or the want to be versus who you want to be.
Yeah.
What were those moments? Were you ever having these moments where you did feel like you pulled back and you did feel like you
Oh,
held? And then how did was that a result? What result of that? And how did you come back to just
yes.
choosing you again?
I realized in college the effects of the years of me pulling back because I got to a point where I was like depressed because I'm realizing this person who like I am and I am being perceived as is like not who I am. And who I was just felt so like hollow and so like discarded. But I learned how to continue to show up in those moments and how to continue to, you know, do the thing even though you are depressed and not feeling well. But I will say that those years that I was taught to like suppress and to be quiet and to turn down, I am grateful for therapy to help me realize that I was even doing that. 'Cause I'm like, why do I feel this way? And my therapist was like, because you have been fitting in boxes that aren't your box. And I'm like, that, yes. So then, like I mentioned earlier, during the pandemic, finding out what's in my box. What and I was grateful to, because I could have moved back in with my family during the pandemic, but I emailed my school and I lied. But I was like, I need to stay on somebody's autoimmune, yeah. So I got to stay in the student apartment, which gave me so much time to reflect and like figure out who Tony is and realizing that even though I'm an adult Tony, little Tony still exists in adult Tony. And there was a period from like 2020 to like 2022 or three where I was like really locking into childhood Tony. I'm a grown man with a beard, but I'm coloring. I'm like getting joy out of the clovers, like the small things like that. Realizing that like that joy that I have about me, which as a kid I felt like I won't say it was a bad thing, but I knew I couldn't be out all the time. I have learned again when to be that and when to not be that, but for it to still give it space to exist within me, you know.
Hmm.
And then even bringing it back to you, that joy is how we met and how we connected, and
Yeah.
how I'm here now to even spread more joy, because being who you are, you know. So therapy, get in therapy if you're not, if you aren't.
Yeah, because we don't always recognize when we're trying to conform, especially
Mm-hmm.
when we're children. That's how we learn how to belong
Right.
by conforming and adjusting ourselves to the expectations around us. But
Mm-hmm.
then there's a certain point where sometimes we use it to just get through, and sometimes we use it just to survive.
To survive, yes.
But what got you here isn't going to get you to where you want to go. What you did to survive up until this point isn't going
Mm-hmm.
to be the same thing that's going to help you thrive. And
Right.
so you do have to recognize it's not always conscious. It wasn't conscious for me that I
Mm-hmm.
was doing a lot of people pleasing. I was
Right.
doing a lot of inconveniencing or compromising myself to convenience
Mm-hmm.
others. I was not
Right.
aware of that. And once I started developing the awareness of it, that is what also opened my creativity up and is what also ultimately created this podcast. Is you have to separate yourself from the world around you, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a healthy thing to do because then it's
Yes.
not a codependency.
Right. Not a codependent. And I didn't even know that I was a codependent type. But being unaware that I'm conforming to fit in different environments and to survive, you become like how mold is codependent on these dark crevices so it can survive. That's the same thing. Not even knowing that it needs it, me knowing that I'm being so codependent. And now that I'm not codependent, I'm like, "Ugh, I cannot believe that was who I was." Because I am thankfully to the point now where I am like at peace. And I feel like I'm living a second wave of life because I'm starting to feel, like comfortable with who I am for like the first time in my life, and I'm entering like my mid to late 20s, which I'm happy that like it gives me a new feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, in my experience of being in my 40s, I have done that shift a
Uh-huh.
couple times in my life. And I think you just continue to do that. To think
Yeah.
that as humans, we're always going to be the same way is a flawed way of thinking because we're always going to grow and evolve. And we should always
Yes.
grow and evolve.
Yes.
And sometimes it's like, I don't know if we would want to call it always codependency. It's like, it's just how we start moving to adjust to the environment that we're in. But
Hmm.
also, there's a period of time where you go from being who you are, and it wasn't bad. Like maybe it was not a
Right.
bad experience, but then there is an adjustment period where it just feels like it's new skin, you
Hmm.
being you
Yeah.
authentically in
Uh-huh.
the world, not only just in your life. Because sometimes for me, when I was kind of pulling myself apart from the world around me, it would just be in little ways. Like
Yeah.
I always tell the story about my mom would love peanut M&Ms, and I realized, and I would just always get peanut M&Ms, thinking, that's just what she got, and blah blah blah, and
Right.
realized I never really liked peanut M&Ms. I liked something completely
Right.
different. And so realize it's just those little choices where we choose something different and then it moves
Yes.
into the bigger parts of who we are
Hmm.
and then showing it in the world. But that feels vulnerable because it does feel
That's
like a new
good.
skin, right? A
It
new
does. It
practice.
does. Right, right. And telling yourself that it's okay to practice those new things, especially like we're talking about creativity, like how us choosing those new things is an example of us creating the life for ourselves. And like how you mentioned earlier in the podcast about how we have the power to create a positive or a negative, but like which one are you going to create? So becoming
Hmm.
aware of these things so we can continue to create as we become aware.
Yeah, let's bring it back to that because let's talk about the thing that actually I heard from you
Hmm. All right.
when I met was that conversation of we are always creating. And it was
Hmm.
in that moment that I realized I had had a thought of like, oh, well, where I'd always thought that, well, I'm not being creative because I'm dealing
Hmm.
with whatever is going on in my world. I'm only creative if I'm doing this. And I wasn't conscious that I had had that thought, that in my mind, I was compartmentalizing that creativity is this, if you're writing, if you're
Right.
painting, if you're whatever. But when you said, we're always creating, I was like, bing, bing, it just kind of shot up for me. It just changed me because we are always creating and we can create our heaven and we can create our hell. We can
Hmm.
create both of them and we can create the things that we want in our lives, and it is not always about the median of being an artist. It's
Right.
what are you creating in your world. And sometimes we also think that we're powerless and we cannot create a different
Hmm.
change. So let's talk a little bit more about that
Oh, that's so
creativity.
good, Stephanie. It's funny that like I am the one who said it, but when I'm hearing it, I'm like, yes, yes, but right, I said it. But it's just so true because we have like knowing that, and I'm about to get like kind of spiritual here, but
Go
like
for it.
the
Go
life
for
that
it.
we see in our heads is a life that we're meant to have. And the things that you see, you create in your life. So when you're seeing poverty, when you're seeing negativity, when you're seeing chaos, when you're seeing strife, you're going to see those things in your life. But even if those are your given circumstances, this may be what I'm around, but I'm going to see positivity. I'm going to see solution. I'm going to see an increase in my finances. I'm going to see this. And eventually, subconsciously, because we keep using that word, the things you see, you're going to start to gravitate towards and attract. And then you start to see it in your actual life. So knowing that if the laws of attraction, the laws of power work that way, we can apply that same method to our lives. I am a bank teller. I am creating solutions for people who may not have enough money. I'm giving them loans. People who need to put money in their account. I am creating the solution for that. And also, in knowing that you're going to be interacting with these people, you could take it a step further. Because I'm creating these solutions, how can I be kind when I'm serving this person? How can I give a memorable moment for this person I'm talking to, for the old lady who's bringing in her change? How can I touch her today? Knowing that there are billions of people on this world and we were not put on this earth to be alone. We're going to interact, we're going to talk. And these phones have been putting up those barriers between us, but even knowing that you can still touch people like that. Thinking about, if I am a creator, I am an innovator in the thing that I'm doing, how can I do it to the best of my ability? Especially if you aren't able to like use your other gifts and hobbies that you feel passionate for. If I'm doing this, if I'm washing cars, I'm gonna be the best car washer you have ever seen. Because this is my form of creativity.
Yeah, see, and something's really important is recognizing that you may not be in the life that you want right now,
Mm-hmm.
but that does not mean you don't have the power to change it. Now, the mind will say, no, I don't. Look at
Right,
everything that's going on around me.
right,
But
right,
remember that the life that's going on around you was created by you. Now, it may not have been created by you intentionally.
right.
It may have come out of the circumstances that you were living
That you're
in,
in.
and your choices to navigate and survive those circumstances is the choices that you made to get through. And so the result of your life, your circumstances right now are where they're
Mm-hmm.
at. But if you have the power to do that, you have the power to create the life you want, even in
Right.
littlest ways. Just like Tony was saying, is even if you're a banker, and let's say you don't want to be a banker and you want to do something different, how can you create your life today? Because that's what you have is today in
Mm-hmm.
a way that is much more creative or feels better towards the life you want to have.
Right. Fulfilling to you.
Hmm.
And I think it takes being a bit delusional also. Oh gosh, for years, even as an adult, my parents tell me, you live in a fantasy world, son. And I'm like, but you have to. Because you have to. Because the things you see, you will see. And I think it's that's contrary to what society wants us to think. We are taught to like subscribe and to work to live. But no, we are here to love and to shed light and positivity. I'm going to do that while I'm at work. So I'm not controlled by my work environment. I'm creating the environment at work.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just remembering that you are that powerful. You take our power
Mm-hmm.
back. You live in your power of like, I have the ability, the power to change something. Now I'm
You
going to be
do.
vulnerable. I'm going to do a vulnerable share here with y'all.
Please.
Because Tony was talking about how, the being told that you live in a fantasy. I was constantly told that I lived in a fantasy world. My head was in the clouds. I needed to be more realistic. I don't know if any of you have also got that same message, but me, I'm a visionary person. And what I know Tony, I think maybe you approached it and did something different, but for me, I heard it so much that I did close off and eventually my vision closed. Or I kept having the vision, but I
Mm-hmm.
stopped taking the actions because I believed in the what I was hearing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes what you're wanting to create in the world isn't meant the people around you are speaking from a place of their own experience. And they may not see what you see, but it's not theirs to create, it's yours to create. And you
Right.
got to be in that space of belief.
Mm-hmm.
And that is hard to do and it's hard to navigate, especially when you're a young person. When I was hearing it, I was like, you know, early teen or late teens, early adult, where I heard it again and again and again, and I allowed it to be what was the direction that I was meant to go in.
Right.
But sometimes you have to realize like the people around you aren't the ones they're meant to create. Sometimes you have to find create a community of people who also believe with you. And
Right.
sometimes it's like you have to really just hold that belief
Mm-hmm.
longer,
Hold on to it.
hold on to it. Yeah. So Tony, any kind of advice you can give to that? Because I know what I experienced and what I did and how I
Mm-hmm.
had to go through it. What about you? What was your experience? How did you get through it?
I am fortunate enough to have had theater in my life as a way of expression and to keep the imagination there because you have to use your imagination for theater. And I'm grateful that even doing theater is kind of rebellious in a way, and that would keep the rebellion in me to be like, I'm not going to listen to what you're saying. I am special because I am, and you are, and I'm happy that you didn't allow those thoughts long term to affect your creativity, and you put your heads back into the clouds because it's I mean, how can you not accept what the people around you are saying? But I think my biggest piece of advice is as soon as you start to spend time thinking about who you are and believing who you are, that belief is going to get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. So when people are shooting their bows and arrows at you, telling you, you're not this, you're not this, you need to do this, because I'm such a big, large stone of belief, those bows those arrows are gonna hit the stone and break and fall right off, because you cannot shoot me down, because the solution that I'm creating is me creating a solution to believe in myself no matter what. And the more that we do that and exercise the muscle of believing in ourselves, then the haters and naysayers won't be able to affect you as much. And of course, that quote, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's not true. Words do hurt. Words do hurt. Though I think the more we exercise that belief of ourselves and in ourselves, they won't hurt as much.
Yeah, and it is a process. I'm not going to say in any way that this is always easy.
Right, no.
Yeah,
It's not.
it's not. And I want to say, hey, get community of people who are speaking into you, but not
Mm-hmm.
always do people have community speak into you. So
Right.
what would you suggest for the people who are like, oh, that sounds easy? Because I know that that was not my experience. I did not have the
Mm-hmm.
people. I did not have theater around me.
Right.
And it, you do have to be a little bit delusional and be like, yeah, I actually do believe in what it is I'm seeing,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not what you all are seeing. And sometimes time eventually gets you there, but maybe
Mm-hmm.
also recognize that sometimes you might be the catalyst for the room to change
Right.
it.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
I think my answer to that is, while being delusional, be practical as well, because that's what is real life. What action steps can I take if I'm feeling like I need this need fulfilled or this void fulfilled? Maybe I'm going to go on Facebook and look for groups that are hanging out on Tuesday nights doing trivia. If I'm feeling lonely, maybe I'm going to go to like a run club if I need some motivation to do. But I think to feed the delusion and create what you see, knowing that it takes work on our part and it's not easy work, it may be hard work and it may be a long process, but knowing that, what I love to say, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Taking that first step, and each step you get better every day, one step closer to that destination. So I think keep being delusional, yes, but also knowing that in order to reach that delusion, it takes some work on my part of doing some everyday things, and decide what that looks like for you.
Yeah, definitely choose to be around more and more people that are similar to you. And you
Mm-hmm.
may have to take some time to seek it out. I know that I did. The other thing that I learned, and I don't know if this relates with you, Tony, but we have, again, realizing that the world we came into was here before we got here.
Mm-hmm.
And think for a moment that who you are, you came in this world to change it. You came into this world to be of the future world that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So sit in that space of like who you are may not be for the moment right now, but it is for the
Right.
moment that's coming. And that is something that I have seen throughout my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because the world does change.
It does change. And I think if we think about the fact that we are all created differently, and none of us are created wrong. We created the way we're supposed to be created, which means I am created to serve a purpose here. I am created to fulfill something. I'm created to create something. Whatever your tunnel vision is, your outlook on it is what you should press after. And press after, and know that the person next to you is pressing after what they're pressing after. But hopefully, because I just believe in humanity and us existing in harmony, everybody pressing after what they're pressing after is going to bring us into this, beautiful orb of everybody just enjoy it, because we're seeking what brings us joy.
Yeah, and so let's talk about this a little bit because at the time of this recording, you could be watching this years from now. But at the time of the
Right.
recording right now, the economy is doing a lot of shifting
Mm.
and there is a lot of talk about AI. Now, again, if you're listening to this episode 5 years from now, it may be a different thing and everything's worked out just fine. But as of right now, there's a lot of conversation around AI taking jobs, AI doing the work of that we're used to is a lot of upheaval.
Hmm.
Insert whatever. Just in the last 6 to 10 years, we've seen a lot of change in the economy. We've seen a
Hmm.
lot of change in the world. Change is inevitable. Change will always happen. But I think this time period is very unique because it's asking us to be like, well, who are we? If we are not cogs in the machine, if the life that our parents lived and they were speaking from that space of what they've learned and they lived and they existed from, and they were talking about a world that currently does not exist and may not exist in the future. And we are coming from a place of who we're meant to be, who we're created to be in order to enable that new
Right.
future, then the conversation is less about trying to fit into the world that it was and instead identify who are we now, what skills do we possess,
Hmm.
and in order to like become very clear about what do you uniquely have that then helps you in your career, in your life, and into the future world. Any thoughts on that?
Oh my gosh, so many. That is so good what you were saying. Instead of trying to fit into what the world was, how can we fit into what the world is and what it is going to be? And that is such a difficult thing to even answer in terms of like AI, because like this is taking jobs, yes, but a robot cannot replace a human. A robot cannot be in community how you can be in community. And I think, especially with the way that the world is going, now more than ever, we need to be in community because wars, financial destruction, racial destruction, everything. And with the media having so much control on the way we think, it's important to be in community. One, to have these types of conversations and not get overwhelmed and be succumb to like the fear mongering and the hatred that is of the world now. That's part one. I think part two is to remember that like you're irreplaceable in the way that a robot can't sit here and laugh with me. A robot cannot be talking to Stephanie right here, right now. So I think we and I need to do more of this too, thinking about what can I do that a robot can't, and how can I hone in on that? And maybe that solution is the community that you're in. Y'all are creating something. But I think a reality is technology and artificial intelligence. That is real. And it's taking so many jobs, which I do hate. And also like a career that is also been affected by it because with film, you don't even need actors anymore, really. You're creating people to, but what I know they cannot create is the environment and the experiences that we create at Tonytopia, and which is why that is a need that is going to be fulfilled. So I think and this is a long answer to your question, but I think as we're seeing what the world is coming into, going back to the point of the talk of this conversation, what do we believe in, what are we creating, and how can we continue to strengthen that? And that belief and creation is going to strengthen the joy that we need to withstand all this craziness in the world
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, and I feel like somebody had said something about this, and I heard this the other day, and I agree with it completely. There's also never been a better time to be creative. There's never been a better
That's so
time.
good. That's so
Honestly,
true.
we can get scared about AI. We can get scared
Mhm.
about technology. The truth is that there's going to be always change. There's always going to be another thing of some
Thing.
technological advance. It's going to
Right.
happen, right? I was just
Mm-hmm.
telling that to my son the other day. It's just there's always going to be changes in your life. But if you
Uh-huh.
can stay the constant of who you are, you can navigate through it. But
Yeah.
instead of being scared about this, let's come from a place of like, what can we do with it? Because
Right.
it's never been a better way or better time for us to take an idea out of our heads and get it out there. Because before you'd be like, I had this idea, I have this vision of what I want to create, but I can't create it because I don't have X, Y, and Z. Well, now you have X, Y, Z.
That's
So
true.
how do you get more of your creativity, your ideas, the things you want to do out there into the world using it?
Using it. Now, that's what I will say I'm grateful for because I am a believer of like, if you can do it on your own, do it on your own. But there are great benefits of having AI, even in terms of fleshing out your ideas, getting feedback. What do you think? How can I make this better? How can I tweak this? And yes, the thought is still yours, but I personally don't think there's anything wrong with using a search engine or a feedback engine to help you.
Exactly. So, what can you do with these things? And if you can
Right.
always come from a place of, I've got control of this, I am the creator of what I
Mm-hmm.
want to do. Again, if you get clearer and clearer about who you are and just realize, okay, again, you are not the robot, you are not the thing you're creating, you are the creator of the thing, all right?
Right. Right.
Into these different vehicles, it can come from a place of a little bit more empowerment.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Because, like I always tell people, when you decide to make a change in your life or whatever, the reason that change is going to be so monumental is because you are deciding it. So as long as we continue to decide and choose, we're winning. We're in control.
Yeah, so always remember that you are very creative. So let's talk about
Hmm.
creativity because you created Tonytopia. And
Right.
tell me, so talk a little bit about how why you created that and what has been the benefit because you came from an idea that you doubted,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And honestly, still doubt sometimes. And I'm going in like year two of having this nonprofit. But yeah, I moved to Louisville, Kentucky in 2020. And the need that I felt I needed was community. I didn't know anybody. And I didn't know anybody outside of the people who I worked with. And I was like, I want to make friends. So that took me going into the community and making friends and then seeing what this community was. And I was like, how can I take this and like make it with some things that I want to do too? Because I didn't see anything happening as much with like live music and getting the crowd involved and like audience interaction. So I did my first event on a Monday night in 2023 because that's when actors are off who do stage acting. Our only off day, I had a music festival. There were bands there, but I took the community that I saw around me and invited them into my idea, and it was a huge success. And I was like, so taking that experience and realizing that the need and the idea that I had, if I could have just sat on it, and not done anything with it. But believing in my idea and getting in community is what created Tonytopia. So now we're going, well, we just made year two in April of being a 501c3 that gives the community experiences that are centered around self expression, art, authenticity, and positivity. And we are so unique in the way that we do so many different things for people. People have told me that they feel like they've had a healing experience after our events. They feel like they have made friends. People have gotten in romantic relationships. So it's a big pat on the back, but like a hug to me because I know the feeling that I felt when I was doing that first event, hoping this worked, and knowing how I still feel that feeling now sometimes, and I'm still doing it, hoping it works, but having to remind myself that it works because it's for the people and it's an event of the people. So Tony Toby, we do events throughout the year. We do Tony Tuesdays. That is a day that we are intentional about choosing ourselves. We take Tony Tuesday as an example for you to put yourself first that day. And whether that's you buying yourself a nicer lunch, just a choice that you're making to be intentional about taking care of yourself on this Tony Tuesdays. And sometimes there will be like a Tony Tuesday social where we'll come together and we'll hang out and we'll do something under the guise of this is what I'm doing for myself this. We're new, we're only 2 years old, we're still learning and evolving, but our motto that we have developed recently is exist, express, and evolve. Because while you're in life existing, not only do we want you to exist, we want you to express yourself in the meantime, believe in yourself, go after the things you want to go after. And also, while you're doing that, we want you to evolve. And you'll look up 10 years from now, oh, I'm in a much better place now because I was expressing myself 10 years ago. So that's the whole umbrella of what we do. We just want to make people feel good and feel seen and know that like we all are the same, even though we have different careers, different passions. We're still humans. We still have insecurities. We're still vulnerable about things. Let's come and hang out and feel some joy for a couple hours.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about creating, though, when it comes to the ideas.
Uh huh.
Because this was an idea that you had and you could have sat on. And how
Right.
many of us are guilty of having an idea and sitting
And
on it?
sitting on it.
So I am a believer that if the idea comes to you, that it's meant for you to create.
Uh
And
huh.
if you don't create it, then it might go off to somebody else. If you've ever read I think it's Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic, where the muse visits.
I
If you don't take it, it
haven't.
moves to
Big
somebody else.
magic.
So let's talk about how many ideas, like how you handled catching ideas.
Right. And I have so many ideas. What I do now, because I found out that my ideas are valuable when they come to fruition, I just write them down. And then I just have like a list of notes in my app. Um, of ideas, and then finding out, okay, which one is the best one for right now, which one can I do with the resources I have, which one, and all the ideas are compiled, but knowing that, like, okay, with the resources, with how much money I have, how much can I spend to create this event. But I think, to answer your question about creating, again, it's like a gamble, and it's scary too, don't get me wrong. I feel like this whole episode I've been like, create, create, create. It's not easy all the time to create, even if you do it for a living, because of the fear. Is it going to work? Are people going to come? Will people support me? All the factors that come into creating. But I think because you had the idea and you were chosen to have that spark of imagination and creativity, lean into it. Even if you can't bring it to fruition right now. But I have talked to people who have, I'm producing a show for a girl in October. She's always wanted to have her own solo show. Okay, what's your idea? What can I provide you? What can we, and boom, now we have a show about her. We have a theme. We have this, because she shared her idea. So even if you feel like you can't execute, there are people around you, again, while community is important, people who are around you who can help you bring your idea to life, help you get to the first step. Or if you're on step one, they can get you to step five. But if you feel like you can't create it on your own, then reach out to somebody. And somebody will see your vision, because thankfully now I have a team of people helping me. But like for a whole year and a half, it was just me doing it by myself. But I realized, hold on, I can ask for help and I can reach out to people. And now things are running much more smoothly because other people are believing in my vision and we're all working toward the same thing. So I think believe in your idea, try to take the first step. If you can't, if you don't know what step to take, look who is around you who is there to help you. But don't suffocate the idea. Don't suffocate it. Even if you postpone it, don't suffocate it.
That is so true. See, that's the other thing is where we kind of count out the idea, and we
Mm-hmm.
also precondition the idea before we
Oh,
even let it come out of us.
precondition it. That's
You
good.
know, and we just sit, we look at our life, we have the idea, and then we look at our lives and our current circumstances, and we go, "Oh, it'll never happen because of this." But again, remember, you created. Again, it may
Right.
not have been intentionally, but you created the circumstances you're in, and
Yeah.
so you never know, and you can create new circumstances, and you never know if that one idea is actually what moves you out of the current circumstances you're
Right.
in.
Right.
And so the other thing also is, I love where you said lean into the idea, capture it and lean into it, because some of the ideas you have aren't meant to be done just by you. You
Right.
never know who you're meant to do it with, and you never know how that's going to affect their life, or who are you meant to
Mm,
create it for, and how does it affect
right.
their lives. So we're all in this together, is the way I feel it, and you never know where
Hmm.
your idea is actually connected to the livelihood of somebody else. So when
That's
you
so
hold it and you hold it back, sometimes you're also stealing from somebody else because you don't know
good.
who's
Hmm.
connected to it, who's meant to
Right.
benefit from it.
You are
So
preaching to me, Stephanie. That is so good. That's so true. Because, right, how are people benefiting from you following your dream? That's so good. I can preach on that because that is right. It is bigger than us. I feel like me being an actor is bigger than me. I don't, like, I forget that like acting and stuff comes with like success and things, because I'm just doing it because I love to do it. But so many people are impacted by like my performances or my Tonitopia events, and so many people are impacted and are going to be impacted by your art and by the things that you are doing, because
mhm.
there was always somebody on the receiving end of what you're putting out. So
Yeah.
keep putting out.
Oh,
That's
and
so
let's
true. But in a positive way, keep putting out positively, you know.
see, that was the other part. That was where I was going to go because we also have to remember that we create the environments that we have in our lives.
Hmm.
And how we show up in the world also impacts the people around us. Because remember, have we ever had good moods? You've ever been around a person that's like, you've been around Tony? You
Right.
feel good around Tony. But we've always
Good.
had those people also, and we've also probably been guilty of it too, where it's like,
Hmm.
I'm not the best version of
Being the
myself.
negative Nancy.
Yes, and now you're creating that kind of environment.
Hmm.
So
That's
be
so true.
mindful that we're always creating and how,
Yeah.
again, how are you, what are you creating? And how is it affecting the people around you?
And what I want to add to that too is that remembering that we're always around people and we're creating energies because as humans, we radiate frequencies and energies. Our auras are a real thing about us. And that will say a lot about you before you even open your mouth. And knowing that, what do you want to give off? How do you want people to perceive you? How do you want to affect the room that you're in? And your actions in the room will affect how you feel in the room and your
Hmm.
outcome. So
Exactly,
that's
100%.
positive.
You show up with that belief in yourself, you'll open way more doors
Hmm.
just by the energy you're exuding before you even open your mouth, before you even say anything.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That is
You
good, Stephanie.
Well, Tony, I think we could talk for hours, but I know you've got to get ready to, you're getting
Oh
ready to
yeah.
rehearse for your new opening.
Rehearsal. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell everybody where they can, they find out more about you. You're going to be hopping off here to go rehearse for your next opening
Yes.
show. So tell people about that.
Yes. If you are in the Kentuckiana area at all, I am an actor at Derby Dinner Playhouse. It's a dinner theater in southern Indiana. You get a dinner and a show, Broadway level show, like sets, costumes, talent.
So good.
It's incredible. So good. Please come see it. We're about to open the Little Mermaid this summer, and then we go into Heartbreak Hotel after that. It's an Elvis Presley musical. So hard work coming up, but I'm excited. And if you're interested in Tonytopia, you can go to tonytopia.com or Tonytopia on Instagram. Or even if you're interested in little old me, my Instagram is Tony the Third with third spelled out THIRD. And we're just being ourselves and loving and expressing.
Yes. Thank you so much for doing this episode. I hope that so many people get something out of it,
I
and go
hope.
and follow you because, like I said, you're liquid sunshine.
If you're coming from my pages, go and follow Stephanie because she's having the conversations that we need to have to grow and get better as human beings.
Thank you, Fact. Thank you.
Of
Thank you. Thank you so
course.
much for that. I appreciate it.